Welcome, my fellow Fremen, to the K.O.E. Nation for an official movie review of our desert, our arrakis, our Dune. Yes, the movie review of Dune. If you haven't seen it, it's really worth seeing in theaters. It's very visually arresting, I have to say. Like, some of the scenes felt truly massive. In fact, sometimes the landscape and the world building felt so massive. There were times that the sandworm didn't seem quite as massive as it did in the 1984 variant. I remember in that movie, now maybe it's because I was a kid when I saw it, that was really the only few things I remembered from the 1984 version was the guild navigator floating in the tank. That was kind of weird for a kid to see. The giant sandworms, they just felt so massive. And Sting in a knife fight. I was wondering why the lead singer of the Police was in a knife fight. But yeah, that was my memory of the original movie. But this movie, I have to say the casting was spot on everywhere. Like, there was nobody that really felt out of place. The only one that I would say maybe, and it's just because he felt almost a little too big for this role, was Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho. And I'm not saying that as a knock to him. It's just like he has such a presence that, like, you know, he just felt like, yeah, me being the total badass that just beats the crap out of everybody, just beat, you know, yeah, that's just what I do. I mean, yeah, I'm overly qualified for the role. Yes, you cast me right. That was spot on casting for Duncan Idaho, and for fans of Dune, you're like, oh, don't worry, he's got job security in this particular franchise. Without spoilers, yeah, I'm not going to give any spoilers to this movie. It was, like I said, just every shot felt like an artistic masterpiece. The movie score was just, it added to the, like, it just made the moment feel bigger. So I have to give some really big props to the score. It was just right on at all points. And it actually had enough honor to the source material. It actually did give the source material some credence. And to that, I have to really give props to. So it was an amazing time. It was a great movie moment, and some people are complaining about the ending. I'm not. I think it was just perfect, because this is the moment of transit without, like, okay, if you haven't seen the movie, I'm not ruining anything, but this is the transition moment from Paul Atreides to Paul Muad'Dib. And so yes, this is that's a perfect moment. So I didn't spoil anything though, folks, because if you haven't seen the movie, you're like, what in the flying? But anyways, let's go through some of the cast though. Timothy Chalamet, I don't know how he says his name. The kid who plays Paul Atreides, perfectly cast. I know he's like in his early to mid 20s when this was being filmed, but he's one of those kids who just, like, he's got a baby face. He's just looks way younger. So he was cast perfect for this because it's a physical role at times, and yet he's still got that baby face. It's kind of like there's certain actors that just have that, and he does. Zendaya as Chani, really showing her acting chops here. She really, like, now the thing is, she didn't get a lot of lines. There's about 7 minutes of her just kind of looking over her shoulder and looking into the camera, and just kind of have this haunting look on her face that just kind of fills you with wonder. And she did that perfectly. Her training and her time with Disney really gave her the ability to get a lot out of a little. So, and the scene where she talks about, it's a good knife, it'll be an honor for you to die with it in your hands. And it was just like the matter-of-fact way that she was speaking about life in this desert world of Dune, of Arrakis, really. I know, there's gonna be somebody in the comments like, Phil, how could you? I know. But yeah, I really hope they retain her for the next movie because she was integral to the plot flow of this one. Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica. That one, like, I feel like she was kind of a conduit for the audience. Like, all of the peril, all of the feeling of, oh no, what's going to happen here? The feeling of unsureness was all kind of experienced through the part of Lady Jessica, and she A+ on her part. Like, all I'm gonna say is her acting during the Gom Jabbar scene was, I think, the best of everybody in that scene. And I'm not taking anything away from anyone else that was in that scene, but yeah, just go watch and you will see. Oscar Isaac as Duke Lato Atreites, and I like how on the internet they're calling him Duke Lepo because they gotta reference the fact that he's also in the Star Wars franchise. So well done. I think you might be one of the few folks to be able to cross over from Star Wars to Dune like this. Well done, well done. So Oscar Isaac has now basically blazoned himself into nerd fandom for all time. Like he can basically go to any comic book or sci-fi convention till the end of his days, and he is welcome. The people will want to hear what he has to say. Like I said, Jason Momoa, excellent casting. Like I said, maybe almost a little like, I kind of feel like there's been like certain roles you have actors that are just so overly qualified for this, and Jason Momoa, oh, you want me to be a badass that kicks the crap out of a bunch of people and it looks really good? Yeah, I can do that. And then I got to move on to, let me make sure I get his name right, Stellen Skarsgar. That guy, in my opinion, with the little screen time he was given, almost stole the show. Like with his portrayal of menace with Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. That was another thing I do kind of remember from the 1984 version, was the guy who played the original one. There was a little bit of campiness to his, just a little bit of campiness to his acting. Like I remember he would even go, and I, the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, will be the bringer of his doom, or something like that. And so this one was a lot more muted, and he was the one who came up with the line, "The desert has its ways. My desert, my arrakis, my Dune." And yeah, he just, every line he delivered, you believed. And it just kind of gave you like, it was a mixture of several different Marlon Brando roles. It did give you the idea, like when he was doing the bringing his hand down his head, it did give you the idea of Marlon Brando from Apocalypse Now. But also towards the end, I'm not going to give anything away, but it also gave kind of a Godfather vibe, is one way I'll put it. So it's definitely worth it. Just, yeah, let me make sure I get his name right again. Skarsgar, he put in like 200% on his roles. So I got to give him credit there. And then we've got Javier Bardem as Stilgar. He really did get the idea of what life in the desert was like with the very short time he had. So he was definitely necessary. Dave Bautista was present. Yes, he was in fact in this movie. He didn't have a lot of time in this movie, but the few physical moments he had, it did get across the menace that they needed to get for this particular movie. Dave Bautista as the Beast Raban is just, he's a perfect lapdog that is overly loyal to his awful master. When Baron Harkonnen goes, "I have only one requirement. Raban, squeeze hard." And he goes, "Yes, my uncle. Yes, uncle." Like, you know, Batista's really found his calling in Hollywood. Like, with the small bit of time he had in his first scene, he goes, "How could the Emperor take this from us?" And then everybody in the room just cowers, they sell it perfectly. And so in just that small moment, Dave Bautista got his character over as someone full of menace. Everybody on this entire infrastructure is terribly, terribly afraid of him. So Dave Bautista definitely gets how to project heel heat. What a shock. And then last, I want to talk about Josh Brolin. He is taking over. Let me make sure I get it. Yeah, Gurney Halleck. I wanted to make sure I get his last name right, because the whole movie, I'm just thinking, Gurney. Because let's be frank, that was another one of the reasons that why the 1984 movie stood out to me. Is like, wait, why is Jean-Luc Picard all pissed off and in a different outfit? Like, that was the other thing that kind of threw me off, because I was about, like, I can't remember how old I was when I saw it the first time, but so yeah, Gurney Halleck, played by Josh Brolin. So Josh Brolin's in the Marvel comic universe, and he's also now in Dune. And then we've got Oscar Isaac, who's in Star Wars, and now Dune. So we've now got a Kevin Bacon 3 degrees of separation, even connecting the two. So marvelous. But Josh Brolin, his character, he did give the idea of just gruff soldier that's been through a lot of battles. There wasn't quite the same. He didn't come off as refined as 1984's Gurney Halleck. I mean, come on, it's Jean-Luc Picard. Who's gonna top that? But he did just have that. I'm the guy that's been around this block so many times, kid. You follow me, you listen to me, you might actually survive the day. And that you need that character for a great story sometimes. And Josh Brolin just projected it perfectly. And I like the Mentats in this one. Both of them, I forget the actors' names at the moment, but both Mentats really played their roles well. I really got to say that everything was cast so perfectly. It's like you could tell there was a lot of, almost like they knew that people who were huge fans of the source material were going to be the heaviest critics. And so they did a lot of fan service to them, but it was the kind of fan service that if you're heavily into the books and heavily into the source material, you'll get. And if you're not, it's still a great story that you can just follow. And some of the smaller parts will just go right over your head, but it doesn't matter. It just puts together a great story. So to me, I'm going to go ahead and say this movie, I'm going to go ahead and give it 4 stars out of 5. It's definitely worth going to see. Definitely see it in the theaters if you can at all help it. And I would have to say, if you have the chance to take a loved one with you or take someone who just enjoys good sci-fi, it'll be a good way to spend your evening. And on a personal note, I just want to say this is kind of a funny story. I remember when I was a little boy, like I said, I saw the original 1984 version of Dune with my father. And what's funny is I grew up thinking my dad was a huge fan of this movie. And then when I talked to him about it, when the new movie comes out, he's like, nah, I only saw that movie one time, and I thought it's kind of weird. Oh, you must have been sitting in the room with me when I watched it, I guess, huh? Yeah, well, ain't that something? Then we just went back to turning wrenches, and I kind of had that Ricky Bobby moment, like, wait a minute! You mean you're not a fan of this movie, dude? I based my whole life on that. Like, no, it was like that. I was like, wow, I went my whole life thinking you were a huge fan of that. Really? Huh, okay. So yeah, I always thought the 1984 version was visually arresting in its own way with the technology it had. This one is like every bit of special effects technology and every bit of cinematography that you can imagine. They're squeezing every bit of beauty out of every shot. So you definitely need to check out this new movie. And yeah, check out the 1984 movie if you like. It's really something. So, folks, as I'm known to say around here, all that being said, thank you for joining me for my review of Dune. Please like, share, subscribe to the K.O.E Nation right here on YouTube. Check me out on Twitch, K.O.E Nation, and K.O.E Nation on TikTok. Thank you for being here, and remember, fear is the mind killer.
Here and see if it just smooths itself out.
Back, tell you what I'll do. If I ever get back, I promise to refabricate you. Raging rivers of gold. That's what the brochure advertised. And now we're lost. We gotta take it down. Let you down slow. It's hard to survive. El Dorado. Oh, Lord. Well, let's see how that one went.
Yeah. See.